Hi there, it's Mark back with another Lightroom tutorial, and today we're going to look at white balance. What is it? How do you use it? Should I care? Spoiler alert, you should care. The pictures we're using today are taken from various photo shoots I've run with Ella, such as this bride on a bike, and they are available from my website in a zip file, and the link is down below. So if you want to go and get those and play along at the same time, we'll enjoy our journey through white balance together. But what is it? Fundamentally, different lights can create a cast. So a tungsten light, which is very yellow, can create a cast, and white in your picture will take on that. If you want your whites to be representative of white, then you can use white balance to address that, and we will see that in action. For example, if I add fluorescent white balance to this picture, you get that. Why is it blue? I shall explain why in a moment. The other thing is, some people think white balance is to do with exposure because it's about white, it's about the brightness, it's about the lightness of your picture. Well, that's not correct. White balance has got nothing to do with exposure. It is about getting a correct representation of white in your picture. And there's a few little tricks we can use using the tool to actually get us there. All will be revealed. Just stick around. I'm going to put the kettle on, I'm going to play the titles, and we're going to white balance together in about 8 seconds. Okay, so here is our very first picture from a bride on a bike set I shot with Ella. And for those worried about health and safety, that is a dead end, that road. The dead end is immediately behind me. I was about 20 foot away, and no traffic comes along there at all. So it's an ideal place for such a shoot. I'm going to address a comment I made in the introduction where I said white balance has got nothing to do with exposure. It's got nothing to do directly with exposure, but because it will change the look of the picture as a JPEG rendition on the back of your camera, then it can influence how it is metered, and it might influence how you see the histogram if indeed you shoot with a visible histogram, and might lead you to make decisions on exposure which you might not otherwise have made. But I'm talking subtly here, and if you shoot in RAW, then it's neither here nor there. Yes, it still influences what you see on your camera, but it doesn't influence what is in the picture that is captured. You are free to adjust it. If you shoot in JPEG, then the white balance you choose is baked into the picture, and if you've made the wrong white balance decision, it's a little harder to unpick. Not impossible, just a little harder, which is one of the advantages of shooting with RAW. Nothing is baked in. You have full freedom of all editing controls, including all the color changes, white balances, and so on and so forth. So indirectly, yes, it can. Should we worry about that? Not really. So exposure is about light, and white balance is about color, if you think of them that way. And before we get too far into the tools and how we'd use it and why we'd use it, you've probably used these sliders many times. We're in the basic panel in Lightroom, and we think of this as moving to the left to the blue as cooling a picture off, and indeed you can see it is having a cooling effect on the picture. A little bit more blue coming in. Obviously we can make it ridiculous, but that might be your choice, who knows. Or we move to the yellow side, which is warming it up, and you can see how we're getting a more yellow glow in there. It looks warmer picture, and again, not to ridiculous extremes, unless of course that's what you want. And if you look at the numbers that we have over here, that is the temperature. It's known as the temperature. It's in degrees Kelvin. So you will usually find about 5,600-ish, give or take, is sunlight. And you will find when you buy speed lights or studio lights, they might have a temperature on them. That would be the temperature to set to match the white balance. So one of my studio strobes is 5,600. So if I set that to 5,600, then it would match the color and the tint that came off that came off my strobes. So this is white balance. You're actually using it there, but you're probably using it to warm or cool a picture, irrespective of whether that is correct from a white balance point of view. And to be fair, that's mostly how I use it, with the exception of when I deliberately want to put a flash in, or when I am shooting under something like a heavy tungsten light. Let's get into the tools. Now the primary tool is your dropper here, and I'm going to use the dropper now just to sample a part of the picture where I am going to tell Lightroom is a neutral point. I'll come back to what I mean by that, and it will use that to set the appropriate white balance. Now your eyedropper might not look like mine. It depends on what you have or haven't previously played with and set. So let us see. I will click on my eyedropper and my cursor changes to an eyedropper, and it follows me around together with this little box. So under the end of my eyedropper is roughly where my picking is. If I come into the center of that flower there, you can see in the box that's being dragged around, that is indeed the center of the flower in many pixels. How many pixels are shown in that box I can adjust with this scale down here. Let's get that out of the way. Down here, if I move the scale. So now I've got a lot more pixels in that box. Try and find that flower again. There we are. But however many numbers there are, it's the very center one with the little crossing that is where the end of the picker is. And it just helps me target that, because that flower on her head is very small. I can't tell if I'm in the center of it, but I can dragging that loop around. Yours might not have the loop there. It might have the loop off, in which case you've just got the dropper. Now, is that dropper on the white or is it on the yellow? More difficult to say, hence I leave it on. The other thing is, if I sample there, ignore what the picture's going to do for the moment. If I sample there, and then I sample here, and then I sample there, the dropper is staying with me. I have to go and put it away. This setting down here, let's pick the dropper up again, auto dismiss means that whenever you sample once, it puts it away. So you have to go and get it, sample, it puts it away. I prefer it to be left on in case I'm sampling a few times, and then I will put it away. So let's reset mine to how I prefer it. Show loop, bring the scale down to midpoint, and that's how I use the dropper. So what am I doing? I'm trying to find a part in this picture where I am telling Lightroom is neutral. And what does neutral mean? Well, if I'd have been a bit more organized on the shoot, I would have had Ella hold up a grey card for the first picture. Let's assume these flowers are the grey card, and I would just click on that, and I know that that grey card is neutral, so it would set my white balance for me. Whether I had flash, whether I was under tungsten, or whatever. However that grey card is rendered under those lighting conditions, I'm telling Lightroom that is neutral, and it will then set all the other colours accordingly. Hence, when I pick on a red, which if you look at the bottom of my box there, says 58 red, 37 green, 37 blue, that's not neutral, that's red heavy. If I was to click on the side of the tank there, it's 76 red, 92 green, 90 blue. So picking your neutral point, that looks more neutral to me about there. That would probably be a better choice, and if I was just quickly doing this, I would probably head for that. I'm going to demonstrate that with another picture, and it is another picture that is in the pack. I'll give you two of each, and we are going for this one. So over here I've got three very distinct shades of grey. Let us, with the dropper on, let us click on the first one. Let's click on the second one. Click on the third one. They are very, very different, but unlike over here, green, there, red, when I click on any one of these, and the next one and the next one. It makes no difference. Now why is that? Look at my loop box. You'll see at the bottom it says 70 for red, 70 for green, 70 for blue. Next one says 50, 50, 50. The next one says 29, 29, 29. Neutral means the same percentage of red, green and blue, the same mix of red, green and blue in the pixel. So it doesn't matter what the actual tone is we're looking at. What matters is that it is neutral across red, green and blue. Now usually to you and me that just means a grey, and if you find a grey in your picture, I chose that one before on the curbside, and this is good luck rather than good management. I've managed to stop there at 49, 49, 49. That really was just the look of the draw, but I knew it would be there or thereabouts, so looking for a grey helps. So that's why you've got one of these on each of the three pictures we're going to be working with. I've left a grey slider down the side so you can play with that. For the rest of this tutorial though, we're working with the ones without the grey down the side. Okay, so you identify a neutral point, and Lightroom then makes all the decisions about the rest of the colour based on that point. Let's put this away. Let's go to the next picture. Now in this picture, this was as shot. So what white balance did I have? I think I probably had this on auto white balance, if I remember rightly, where I let the camera make its decision. But because I shoot in RAW, it is not baked in, and I can change this to anything. Let us, for example, change it to flash. And you can see how it subtly changed the picture. And incidentally, it's gone to 5,500. I said my flashes were around about 5,600, so it's in that ballpark. I'll just pop that back to as shot, and you can see how there's a little bit more orange coming, a little bit more warmth is coming in there. Because as we bring this down, the temperature goes down in number. As we take it up, the temperature goes up in number. So if I go back to as shot, you can see it's 6,250, whereas I actually have my flash 5,500. So here you have a series of scenarios which you can use after the fact. So if it was shot under fluorescent, you could choose fluorescent, makes it a little bit blue. If it was shot under tungsten, it makes it a bit more blue. Now why is that? It's because it's trying to balance out the yellow. Blue and yellow are opposites. So notice for tungsten, which is much more yellow, it's thrown it further over to blue. When we're in fluorescence lighting, it didn't throw it as much. But again, it's thrown it to blue to combat the yellow that was in those lighting conditions. If you shoot in JPEG, and the closest I've got to JPEG is probably one of these TIFF files, you don't get the same amount of choice. But when you get raw files, whoops, let's go back. When you get raw files, you get the full gamut, the full range of them. So afterwards, you can say daylight, it was cloudy, I was in shade, or whatever. Or indeed, just play with these sliders yourself. There's also auto, where Lightroom will try its best to make an assessment of what it is and applies it. Which one is it applied? I don't know, but I can see it's cooled it off quite a bit more. In matter of fact, this was under flash, so I will leave it there. However, these can be used creatively. You may choose to have more blue effect on there. And of course you can then look at tinting as well, bring a greeny tint in or a magenta tint. So without doing any edits on this at all, we can actually creatively change and stylize this using these individual sliders, which are white balance. Some people don't think of it. They just see it as the warming and cooling, and that's fair enough. As I said before, that's how largely I use it. or you can be precise and true to what you saw on the day. I hope this is making sense. We're now going to play with our final picture, where essentially the light is shining down and the softbox just had loads of fabric thrown over the top, hanging down like shower curtains. Ella was inside, pair of sunglasses that had a lot of contrast, and it turned out being quite a creative day. I shot flash. So I shot, it was a little bit warmer, but I'm going to take it down to flash to get a little bit more true to form. In this particular picture, I think I would prefer to cool it off a little bit more. I think there's something about a blue coming through in the whites which works. And just for clarity's sake, and I don't mean the slider, how to continue this edit, I think I would soften the whole thing, wash it out a little bit more by bringing my texture down, not right down so it's overtly dreamy, too airbrushed, and certainly not the other way. That's not very flattering at all, but I would bring this down and possibly bring the vibrance up rather than saturation. What's the difference? Let's wriggle and find out. So vibrance all the way up and all the way down. Now let's go saturation all the way up and all the way down. Was anything jump out to you? Look at the skin tones. So if we go vibrance all the way up, and we've got skin tones here, and bring this down. Saturation all the way up, it's stronger. Saturation, or rather, we'll do it the other way around. Vibrance is kinder to skin tones. It's more cognizant of them, for want of a better description. And so using vibrance for coloration around skin tones and such is far gentler, it's far more natural than using saturation. Saturation will saturate and saturate, it will oversaturate. And what else might I do to this one? Probably not a lot. A little vignette, would that work? Negative vignette or positive vignette? No, negative vignette I think on this one. And that's it. So, white balance. It's a creative tool. In its basic form, it's about cooling or warming a picture. In its precise form, to address tints that are cast onto your picture because you've got let's say you've got a very cheap speed light where the color calibration is not fixed. One of the things you pay for with a more expensive light is the quality of the light, the precision on the temperature. So let's say you've got one that sometimes throws a bit of a tint in, or you had a bit of fluorescent light breaking through, you shot in the kitchen. Let's say you wanted to balance that properly, then white balance is where you need to go. So not complicated at all, really. Messages to take away. Shooting in RAW doesn't really matter what you do. Shooting in JPEG, it is baked in, it's harder to undo. You can always address it afterwards. You can do it as a creative tool, you can do it as a precision tool. You've got an eyedropper which actually can help you pick a part in a picture to use as that reference. If you shot with a grey card, you would put that eyedropper onto the grey card and then it would tell you what your white balance is, and then you can use that in your subsequent pictures as long as the lighting doesn't dramatically change, i.e. a cloud comes over on a sunny day or something like that. And it's all based on a neutral part. And where's that neutral part? Well, as we saw in this picture here, it's all where red, green and blue are balanced. Here they were in the 70s, there were in the 50s, there were in the 29s, and it made no difference to the outcome because in each case, although it's a different shade, it was a balance, it was neutral. And that's it. If you found this useful, then stick around for more. Click on that subscription button if you haven't already. If you have already subscribed, thank you, but don't click on it again because that makes an unsubscribe. And if you happen to do that, click on it again. Odd numbers are your friend, right? As long as you've ended up clicking an odd number on the subscribe button, we're happy. Click on the like. If you like this, it all helps with the channel and puts this video in front of other people. And of course, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. and I answer each and every one, including ones about physics, but probably not many about football. Bye for now.